Hey guys, today I'll be reviewing the new units from the Chapter 10 banner, as well as taking a quick look at the new mob unit, the Infernal Giant. With that, let's get started. The first 5-star of the batch is Tezcatlipoca. His role is a buff thief, both for allies and enemies, whenever he moves, and this synergizes with his on buff, reflect debuff, and attack up to self. He also acts as a possessor and as a charge skill locker, with his new debuff, Darkness. Tezcatlipoca brings relevance to the possession debuff, which was previously found in only 2 regular skills from Christine and Lantern, both of which were at extremely low activation rates. He also takes the role of a buff thief, stealing a buff from each nearby ally and enemies every time he moves. Lastly, he is now the second charge stealer after Ifrit, or third if you count Beach Bowls, with the new debuff Darkness, and plays this role far more conveniently than his predecessor could. It's worth pointing out, however, that possession, buff theft, and charge stealing have traditionally been considered as niche, useful only in specific conditions. The fact that possession and darkness is significantly more reliable brings them out of niche use and into general use. However, I think buff steal would still only have limited uses. His tree is able to possess on phase start at diamond range at a somewhat unreliable rate of 40%, and can only steal buffs from adjacent squares. In contrast, his 5 possesses every 4 turns at a reliable 90% rate, and can steal buffs in diamond range at a guaranteed 100% rate. His 5 also inflicts dazzle after being struck, which couples with his darkness on attack to make him a decent damage attenuator. Lastly, his 5 also bestows Berserk Plus in diamond range every 4 turns at 90%, making his own Berserk Plus bestow superior to that of Claude 5's. His tree is likely to pop due to his reliance on moving adjacent to the enemy, coupled with his infernal typing, while his 5 is able to tank more with his world typing, helping him stall out for his 4-turn cycles safer. Good times to pull him out include maps where enemy debuffs are common, where enemy charges are a real risk, and where enemies crowd and can hit each other when possessed. His 5 also has decent general use due to his damage attenuation and passive damage buffing. Here his 5 is units who can band-aid the Berserk Plus penalty and HP depletion, and you should be good for success. The next 5-star in the banner is Jacob. He takes up a very unique role as a fish hit combo unit, which I'll explain later, and a traditional square deleter, that is to say a unit that can do massive damage to a single square, as well as permanent blessing on self. Jacob is a very selfish unit, not offering any buffs or HP or CP increase to allies. Coupled with his blow range, this prunes his general utility severely. However, what he lacks in general utility, he makes up for by being a very lethal blow unit that has little problem reaching his target. His main mechanic is a fish hit combo. Every turn start, he can self-bestow combo, and the ultimate result of the combo depends on whether he hits or whiffs the first attack attempt. If his first attack hits, then he can inflict break on the enemy, enhancing his damage output on the second hit. If his attack whiffs, then he can pull in or fish the unit in to land the second hit. Note that every hit is boosted by weakness. For his 3, it is better to execute a hit-hit combo, which deals more damage than his miss-hit combo. But for his 5, it's actually better to go for the miss-hit combo, due to crit being self-bestowed on miss. His 3's Ether attribute lets him hit hard against most matchups, while his 5's World attribute lets him challenge most enemies safely. Besides his perma-blessing and on-charge evasion and heal, he is notably missing self-sustain abilities. Keep him healthy with other healing or defense buffing units. He would be good for maps with sparsely spread enemies, with his minimal slash or long slash units. He would be fantastic as a 1-square boss leader, although he'd still function strongly against large 3x3 boxes. The first 4-star to be discussed in the banner is Yasuyori. He is a damage dealer, inflicting break and having partial defense penetration. He also has a role of bestowing evasion to the square behind him when he's struck. And lastly, he is able to shrug off any lock debuffs, which includes charged lock, but discludes bind. So Yasuyori breaks in the enemy front line while partially disregarding any defense buffs they have, excepting evasion. He is also able to bestow evasion behind himself at a reliable rate. His 4 tips of skills with Self-Brawn and Adamantine on phase start. This card is also able to inflict break on the collaterals behind those he strikes. Generally speaking, he would benefit from a magic unit behind him. In particular, he would pair well with Ashigara 4, equipped with the Ganglia Tifon AR card, which confers break advantage. Move Ashigara behind Yasuyori to gain the Anger damage buff. Ashi will also benefit from Yasu's evasion in this position. Ashi should be slotted after Yasu, so that Ashi's push only triggers after Yasu attacks. And last in the banner, we have Shennong. He is an on-move damage amplifier with Nourishment and the Poison immunity combo to self and to adjacent allies. On the first turn of each phase, he's also able to bestow self, evasion, and heal. All of his skill effects except for his Poison Spread and Poison Advantage are on move. The popular term for this kind of unit is a move slut, and he certainly earns the name as someone who has a big incentive to move every turn, while having little use when he's not moving. His new buff, Immunity, confers 2 times attack, 0.65 times defense, and 400 HP. However, it lasts only for 1 turn, and requires the unit to hold poison as well. Additionally, he is incentivized to move on first turn due to the high activation rate for evasion and heal on that turn. Immunity cannot activate until turn 3 onward for his 3, and turn 2 onward for his 4. His 4 is also able to bestow evasion and heal to adjacent allies if he moves on turn 1, in addition to himself. He's a unit that can consistently apply a strong buff that amplifies both attack and defense, but under the stringent condition of him moving every turn and poison being present. Because of the requirement of poison, his utility would dramatically decline in teams that remove or nullify debuffs. For the same reason, any team that uses him will be vulnerable to debuffs, even if the team can remove or nullify debuffs, since poison can waste debuff pruning skills. Do not use him in maps that heavily inflict debuffs. Outside of this restriction, he can greatly enhance any team that doesn't use any other move slots. And lastly, we have a new mob unit, the Giant, that is obtainable in Chapter 10. I'm not sure exactly how he's obtainable, whether it's in one of the free quests or during the main story quest, but I do understand that he is available summer within Chapter 10. His role is an on-move breaker, and he also has turn 1 evasion on self, and he can also push units when he hits them. With break and an infernal 1.5 times matchup, this unit can be a decent square deleter. His break on move is interesting due to being able to ignore retaliative skills that trigger when struck. I don't think this mob has great general use, but I'm sure he can do well somewhere. And with that ends my thoughts for the most recent units. I personally think overall for the Chapter 10 banner, the units certainly all have a use. They're not just pointless units. Looking at you, Hombra Tigre and Oz. But yes, they certainly have a specific use that can be good, which sort of guarantees that they aren't permanently shelved units. However, I don't think any of them are mind-blowingly amazing for general use or for challenge quest uses, but we'll just have to see, I suppose. With that said, that ends my thoughts. See you around, guys.